Professor Waraboko and other visiting professors who are here with us in the audience, members of the university, students, friends, visitors on campus, Dr. Donna Hope, former classmate, and someone who I have a tremendous amount of time and respect for, Cinderella, Damien, Christian, Leo, and other members of the family. I bring you greetings this evening. Good evening. I consider it a privilege to be standing here to be introducing certainly one of my icons, Cindy Breakspear. It's very difficult sometimes to make the connection between a woman who has charisma, who is artistic, who is feminine, who walks to the beat of her own drum, who is beautiful, who is a master mother, and someone who combines all of it in one package for what you're seeing sitting right there in red. Cindy, to many of you, is not only beautiful on the outside, but she's beautiful on the inside. Many years ago, in 1976, she walked away with the coveted title of Miss World. But many of you don't realize that she was Miss Jamaica Body Beautiful before that. And since that, she's captivated not only the hearts of many Jamaicans, but many persons around the world because of her infectious smile and her green eyes. Idolcraft, for some of you who might be too young to remember, was one of those institutions in Jamaica that facilitated leather, shell work, and beautiful jewelry that I don't think Jamaica has seen since. And I think it is a timely rendition for her to be standing here, because not only will you see her journey, but you will come to respect her even more. One of the unfortunate things that we have done sometimes as a country is judge people by the way they look and the things that we hear about them, without actually feeling the passion and the sincerity exuding from what their experiences are. And so this evening, I'm so proud to introduce my friend, my icon, and someone that I have looked up to for such a long time and have tea with at least twice a week, Cindy Breakspear.
Goodness, what a welcome, what an introduction. I mean, what does one say after that? Except to tell you, if you know how I did vex when she win. Just come box me off of the crown. Right? Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Brothers and sisters, brethren and sistren, family, and very, very dear friends. To my mind, there are only special guests here this evening, all protocol observed, only special guests here this evening. You took the time and the trouble to come out once again to hear what someone, that someone being me on this occasion, has to say about the late, great Robert Nesta Marley, OM. And I would like to thank the university for my place here today. It has become a place that I cherish, respect, and cultivate. A safe place I can visit at my leisure. A place that I am transported to when I least expect. A place so full of wisdom and life's lessons that I marvel to this day as they reveal themselves over and over. I would like to start by telling you a bit about myself, my background, so you will have an understanding of where I was coming from and how necessary a bridge to this 20th century prophet was. I was born in Toronto, Canada in 1954, yes, I'll be 60 this year, to a Canadian mother and a white Jamaican father. He had been in Canada studying textiles, met my mom, and the rest, as they say, is history. In search of warmer weather needed to support my mother's health, we moved to Jamaica in 1959, along with my older brother Stephen, my constant companion and playmate. As children, you often fail to notice that there is trouble in paradise, and when my parents went their separate ways, a couple of years later, we were devastated. Stephen was sent to St. Mary's College above rocks, and I was sent to Immaculate Conception Convent. Up until then, we had occasionally attended Webster's Memorial Church on Halfway Tree Road. We were not overly religious by any means, and my memories of Sunday school are pleasant and fun, free from trauma, pressure, and devoid of devils with red-hot pitchforks, waiting to mete out certain punishment if we failed to toe the line. To be sent to a Roman Catholic convent at the age of 7 was a shock to the system, to say the least, and I have over the years taken to referring to myself as a grateful recovering Roman Catholic. The nuns were remote, very strict, and certainly provided no substitute for the love one's own parents offered. Boy, let me tell you, this thing is a heavy thing we're going through right here. Now, I'm telling them earlier today, the baby is going to be born today, you know? So, anyway, during the 4 years I spent there as a boarder, I often felt lost, lonely and abandoned, and lived for the holidays when I would be reunited with my brother. Visits from my parents were infrequent, I thought, compared to the other students, and my sense of family began to dissipate, replaced by the understanding that friends would have to suffice. As I look around me tonight, many of those friendships are alive and well today, and I hope my friends know how much I appreciate them. Immaculate was indeed the finest girls' school in Jamaica, and I am eternally grateful for the foundation I received there, and have often noted that if I have any discipline at all, I learned it there. The emphasis, however, was definitely on religion. We were up very early for Mass every morning. We prayed before and after every class, every meal. There was rosary in the chapel every afternoon, and Mass, rosary, and benediction every Sunday. I grew into a rebellious teenager, fascinated with the opposite sex, oblivious to the benefits of education, and eager to be out of there in the world, commandeering my own life. In and out of trouble, it was actually a relief to both me and the school when I finally graduated. And although I was not allowed to participate in the final graduation ceremony, I have been reliably informed that whenever this practice has come into question, I have been cited as the example. Well, look at Cindy Breakspear, they say. She wasn't allowed to graduate and she turned out just fine. However, after 9 years of schooling, I left Immaculate with the feeling that religion was rigid, judgmental, divisive, and lacking in compassion. A brief stint at Duff's Business College proved too much of a struggle between my fingernails and the typewriter keys, so I moved on. With no money for higher education, the best job was the one that looked best. One day, while working at Gemcraft, a jewelry store in Tropical Plaza, a couple of English guys came sauntering in, browsing the plaza, I suppose. One of them, a well-known DJ based in London by the name of Dave Cash. He took one look at me, and as we say in Jamaica, him skin catch fire. We started hanging out along with my brother and girlfriend, Virginia Burke, and ended up at a house on Russell Heights occupied by none other than Danny Sims. We parted hearty and were still at it in the wee hours of the morning when there came a knock on the front door. Danny disappeared for a short while, and on his return declared, "You know who that was? That was Bob Marley," so I'm talking of. "He's gonna be a big star one day." We nodded in dutiful agreement and went back to our partying, and thought nothing more about it. I don't believe any of us at the time were even aware of Bob at all, and probably didn't realize that we danced to his music frequently at parties. I first became aware of Bob when Catch a Fire was released in 1973. My brother Stephen, affectionately known as Reds, was the music aficionado in our group, and most of the music we listened to at that time was brought home by him. There were 2 albums in heavy rotation, Catch a Fire and Marvin Gaye's What's Going On. So you can imagine how thrilled we were to see them both in concert in May of 1974 at the Carib Theatre. Although they were completely different genres of music, there was a commonality in the message. Take care of the planet. You are your brother's keeper. Drugs are not the way to go. Stand up for the poor and oppressed. These ideas began to seep into my subconscious, and the notion that spirituality was so much more rewarding than religion started to take root. The years spent in a Roman Catholic institution had not left me with much. My father had migrated some years back. My mother, herself in need of an anchor, had set us free from her nest. So, my brother and I, as close as two peas in a pod, found our way through a mutual friend in the know to 56 Hope Road to rent a 2-bedroom flat on the ground floor of the main house. We were not the only tenants on the compound. Judy Ann McNeilan and Diane Jobson, to name a couple, also lived there at one time. Well, Reds and I loved living there. The compound was buzzing with activity, music, football, and Rastafari. We were indeed from the echelon of society, which believed Rastas to be a population of machete-wielding religious fanatics, crazed on ganja consumption, to be avoided at all costs. But we settled right in, completely at home, and free at last of social mores and parents. Our friends frequented our place, an eclectic mix of beautiful people: Errol Thompson, Tony Johnson, Nancy and Virginia Burke, Patsy Yun, Ronnie and Susie Burke. We came and went as we pleased, smoked our fair share of ganja, and reveled in the understanding that as young adults, the world was our oyster. Somehow we sensed that we were positioned at the heart of something great, something special. The atmosphere at 56 was always charged with electricity, excitement, and rebelliousness of a deliberate nature. Bob Marley and the Wailers rehearsed there. Some of them even lived there, including Bob. And the music, which was about to overtake the world with an irreversible resonance, was being created, rehearsed, memorized, and celebrated right there in the same yard where we lived. How could we resist the call? Why would we resist the call? To honor some childhood indoctrinations from institutions we had grown to resent? We were wide open, totally receptive to what else was out there in the way of a moral compass. The rest of the world was waking up to the message and the power of Bob's music. And although Jamaica was running a tad behind, held back by prejudices and fear of the unknown, there was a nucleus of devotees right here in the heart of Kingston Town. Rastafari was the foundation, and we were like moths to a flame. To listen to the music and feel the pulse, the rhythm, move your body was one thing. But to really hear the lyrics and absorb the message was to be totally hooked. It was to understand that there was another way to find emotional comfort, courage, a sense of self and spiritual well-being. Another way to find and nurture the God in you, and indeed in all of us. Looking back now, I realize just how lucky we all were to have been there, in that place at that time, privy to the creative process, witness to the evolution of this 20th century prophet, privileged to be the people he ate with, worked with, kicked ball with, and in my case, brought new life into the world with. We were there, we were part of it, not even understanding then how amazing what was unfolding before our very eyes truly was. We were there, stoned, drunk on the potency of single-mindedness of purpose of one man who now has 44 million Facebook followers, second only posthumously to Michael Jackson. Did we know? We didn't know. We felt. When Bob first began to approach me on a personal level, I was petrified. Yes, I knew him. We said good hello in passing in the yard. Yes, I knew him. But to be a fan, a devotee of the music, part of an elite group of spiritual rebels was one thing. But to be the intimately involved person with this man, the woman who would stand by his side and reflect all that he was about, was entirely something else. I wasn't a Rastafarian, nor was I sure I wanted to be. Here once again was that word religion, full of rules and regulations, just what I wanted to be free of. Things you could and couldn't do. And then there were the social implications, uptown meets downtown. How on earth was that going to work? So much to think about. Small gifts like a freshly picked mango or an invitation to come outside for a walk in the cool night air started to become the norm, and I could not deny that we were fiercely attracted to each other. Fascinated and separated simultaneously by our differences, and so we began to build a bridge. The same bridge that has brought me here today. Bob was strong, fit and virile, tough as nails and boyishly charming all at the same time. A man's man who wore denim and khaki, frequently used chewstick to clean his teeth and smelled of peppermint soap. Super confident and more driven than any human being I have ever met, he was not only attractive but intimidating to a young girl like me. And I knew instinctively if I were to enter into this relationship with him, it would change the trajectory of my life forever. We would stroll out to the fence at the front of the yard and stand there talking for hours about life, Rasta, consciousness, and whether or not one knew what your purpose on earth was, or were you just battering around aimlessly? It was unsettling, to be sure, the company of this man, who was so different from anyone I had been involved with thus far, so serious about his own purpose in life. How and where could I possibly fit in? During our tentative dance around each other, Bob went off on tour for 10 to 12 weeks. Skill Cole and the gang continued to visit me from time to time at the nightclub in Northside Plaza where I now worked, to check on me, see if I was still available, see if I was behaving myself, and to bring greetings from my somewhat elusive suitor. Greetings that always let me know that he was thinking of me while away and would return soon. A return filled with expectation and anticipation. Finally, he was back. I knew the day was imminent. I heard the VW bus come through the gate, and I just knew he was in it. His footsteps up the stairs to my front door confirmed this not long after. He was back. The waiting was over. There were no more questions that seemed to matter. It was no university education. I made a conscious decision to exploit my greatest God-given talent, my good looks. It paid off and turned out to be the best job I ever had. You traveled the world at someone else's expense. They rolled out the red carpet for you wherever you went and paid you to come there on top of it. I could never understand the young women who complained bitterly at the end of it all. What, never had it so good and felt so bad? I told them to work me as hard as possible. I would go anywhere in the world they wanted to have me, and consequently had an amazing year getting to know the world as an unofficial ambassador for Jamaica. Being Jamaican was the thing I was most proud of when it came to facing the microphone. That exotic blend of cultures, colors, and ethnic backgrounds. A melting pot that was truly diverse, now sprinkled with a heavy dose of Rastafari, and new seasoning to be explored and digested. The night I won stands out in my memory as an overwhelming moment, unparalleled and unforgettable. And to this day, watching the videos of it still fills my eyes with tears and floods my heart with emotion. Already a lifetime ago, it has remained a part of the fiber of my very existence. And the memories of that wonderful year are as vivid as they are faded, if that makes any sense. I was the last Miss World to do the Mecca tour, a 6-week tour of England, Scotland, and Wales. So the faithful viewing public, which in 1976 was a mere 28 million, could have an opportunity to meet the new Miss World. I would visit as many as 5 bingo halls or social clubs in one night.